Hi folks, Wooden Boat Dan here. Just wanted to give you a heads up. The podcast you're about to listen to was recorded several years ago, so some of the phone numbers, email addresses, website links, and time-sensitive information are no longer valid. Please keep that in mind as you listen. If you'd like to contact me, my email address is woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Hooked on Wooden Boats weekly podcast episode number 67. I am your host, Dan Matson, aka Wooden Boat Dan. If you can't do it, nobody can. And this is the world's first podcast fully dedicated to celebrating the art, craft, history, and tradition and romance of wooden boats all over the world. And by the way, this is one of the most exciting podcasts in the podcast world. So thanks for tuning in today. Again, I'm Dan Matson. I am your host today. And I'm going to be a short-winded host today because I have a little cold and not going to spend a whole lot of time talking myself. Today's featured segment is an interview with Diana Hennick. Diana is the Visitor Services Manager at the Center for Wooden Boats in Seattle. I met with Diana a few weeks ago on my trip down to Seattle, and she's got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, and her background in boating and her parents, and also what's happening at the Center for Wooden Boats. I would recommend you stick around for that. Okay, I hope you had a good Christmas. It's the day after Christmas when I'm recording this here in Washington State. We had a great time with my family. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, spent at my sister's house, and then spent some time with my boys at our house. We had a great time, feel very blessed this time of year for all our family and friends and everything that we have. The other thing that's kind of fun is I recently purchased a new camera, which I bought It's a Canon Rebel DSLR, a T4i or 650D if you want to get technical. It's got a couple lenses with it and takes high definition videos. Big improvement from my last camera, and so I hope to get some really great wooden boat pics this coming year, and actually would like to put together a wooden boat calendar next fall for 2014, so that's my goal. So I'm pretty excited about that. I did work on my canoe this week, about maybe 3 hours or so, which is about how long it takes me to sand a coat of paint. I sanded the first coat of paint that I put on the boat. Unfortunately, I had a few runs on that, so I had to go with a heavier grit paper. And I think I'm going to thin my next coat. But anyway, I got it sanded down, got my second coat on, which came out better. I still got quite a few dust particles in the paint, so I think my third coat, I'm going to move my boat to the adjacent room in my shop, which isn't as dusty, and see if I can get a third and final coat to look good, hopefully next week. I'm running out of time, though, because we have a deal on our house to sell. If it goes through, we got to be out of there by February 4th. So I'm going to end up with a much smaller shop and workspace, which will be fine, but it will be a little bit of an adjustment. So anyway, I want to get this painting done here soon on the canoe and then start working on the inside on the varnishing of the boat. Okay, we've got a new subscriber this week, Daniel Logan. Daniel, welcome to the e-newsletter subscription list. And if you're listening, you'd like to subscribe to that, I send out a monthly newsletter electronically. You can go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. Give me your first and last name, email address, and you will be on the list. I was scheduled to send out my monthly e-newsletter about the middle of December. I have still not sent that out. I will do that in the next few days here, or let's say by January 1st at the latest. I just kind of want to do a recap of 2013. Okay, parenthetical note here. My brain is thinking 2012, but my mouth is saying 2013, so listen accordingly. Thank you. And talk about what happened this year. And also, I had mentioned last week that on this week's podcast, I was going to do a review of 2013 and not play an interview. But I'm actually going to wait and do that either next week or the week after. So you'll want to stick around for that. Lots of great stuff happened in 2013 for Hooked on Wooden Boats. We're going to move on to the interview now, but before we do that, I just want to say Happy New Year. It's almost 2013. I hope you have a very blessed and prosperous year in 2013, and that if you're not already involved with wooden boats, that you get involved soon. Okay, we're going to go with the interview now with Diana Hennick of the Center for Wooden Boats in Seattle. Take it away, Diana. It is December 7th, 2012. I am sitting with Diana Hennick at the Center for Wooden Boats in Seattle. Diana, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you.
How's it going down here?
It's pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
We're in our less busy season. We don't have a slow season anymore. We just have a busy season and a busier season.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. So where are you from originally, Diana?
Well, I'm a Navy brat. A NOAA brat, actually.
Oh, NOAA brat, really?
My dad was NOAA Corp officer.
National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Okay, very cool.
They have a commissioned officer corps, and my dad was in for 20 years. So my parents met in the Bering Sea aboard one of the research vessels.
Really?
Yeah. Mom was a civilian deckhand aboard the NOAA ship Discoverer. My dad was the navigation officer. So they met at sea. And I was born in San Diego on assignment there, and then we were transferred to D.C., and then back to Seattle, and then back to D.C., and back to Seattle. So Seattle has always been home, but I'm kind of from all over the place.
Are there some NOAA ships over here still on Lake
Not
Union?
anymore.
No,
they shut down PMC about a year and a half ago. Broke my heart and broke everyone in NOAA's heart.
I bet.
Yeah. So they transferred the ships to Newport, Oregon. But they still come up here for maintenance. So actually the Fairweather's in dry dock right now, and that's one of my dad's ships from back when he was an officer.
Yeah, which are ocean research vessels, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you grew up a Navy brat and you moved all over the place, huh?
Yeah. And then my mom got into NOAA because she was a volunteer with the schooner Adventurous. At the time, the schooner Adventurous was docked at Lake Union Dry Dock.
Oh, really?
This was in the 70s.
I didn't know Adventurous was here.
A long time ago, yeah.
Really?
So she, when she graduated school and was looking for a job, she went over to the NOAA boats right next door and signed on as a deckhand. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
On the Adventurous?
No, on the NOAA boats.
Oh, on the NOAA boats.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Adventurous didn't pay their bottom of the line crew at that point, so she was looking for a job.
I see.
Yeah, and she wanted to ship out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then, so where did you go to school then? Were you homeschooled or?
No, I was in the public school system in Washington, D.C., actually in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and in the Shoreline School District here.
I see.
And I hit both school districts twice.
Mm-hmm. And did you go to high school then in Shoreline?
Yeah, we stopped moving when I was 11.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you were here in the Seattle area.
Yeah, and then I went to undergraduate in Bellingham at Western Washington University.
Okay, and what did you study there?
Anthropology, cultural anthropology.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
You know John Lockwood?
Name's not familiar.
He started pygmy kayaks. He studied anthropology at Harvard also.
Yeah.
So he became really interested in the hunter-gatherers, the pygmy people. But anyway, that's kind of a side note. So you went to school here, and then what did you do after school?
I knew from the minute that I signed up to study anthropology that I didn't want to be an anthropologist, but it was interesting enough to study. Mm-hmm. And that got me into the museum internship program, and that was what I wanted to do. So I graduated knowing that I wanted to work in museums, and I was looking for internship opportunities, and got an internship in the Maritime History department at the Smithsonian. So I went to D.C. at the Smithsonian for 4 months, and that kind of clinched it.
I bet that was pretty cool, huh?
Oh, it was really cool. Yeah, it's very different from what we do here, but
so I've never been there. What's that like, Diana?
Well, there's two parts to it. There's the part that the public sees, which is the exhibit, and it's all been remodeled since I was there. They were just finishing up the exhibit design. But you go in as a member of the public and you see the display cases and the open air cases and the exhibit panels and the artifacts. And that's really neat, but what's even neater for a professional or for geeks like me is the behind-the-scenes collection. And that's all the stuff that, for whatever reason, doesn't make it into the exhibits.
Really?
And contains a lot more of the story. So
there's quite a bit of stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's just preserved for the sake of preserving our history.
Yeah, and for future exhibition and for study and for research. And
so what would be an example of something like that?
The one that pops to mind that well, there were two collections that I worked with. I rehoused while I was an intern, and I cataloged a few things. One of them was a whole bunch of stuff that came off the USS, or not the USS, the SS United States, which is the last American ocean liner. And people confuse ocean liners with cruise ships. They are not cruise ships, and there's no ocean liners left. The last one was the Queen Elizabeth II, I think.
Those are simply to transport people across the ocean?
Yeah, they were designed to go fast. They weren't a resort experience. They were transportation. Anyway, this was a collection of stuff that came off the SS United States.
And that was a wooden vessel?
No. Big steamship, big iron hull.
Okay.
She's still around, and I think she's like 400 feet long, something like that.
Really?
Yeah. Laid up, they're trying to save her. But this was a lot of the stuff that was small and was archived effectively when they pulled the boat out of service. So it was dishes and glassware and things like that. And you look at it and it's like, well, this is just some dishes. But then the meaning you're trying to find in things as a museum person is the story behind those. And the story behind those was that this was an entire vacation culture and transportation culture that was basically a hotel at sea, and it wasn't a resort at sea. But it was neat stuff, and you have to know the story behind it to understand why that's connected to boats and to maritime history.
What year was that boat built?
Oh, probably the 40s or the 50s. Probably the 40s, I guess, late 40s.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And they had another collection of tools used by Captain Slocum, who was a pretty famous name in the very small world of maritime history, and he built a boat and went around the world and wrote about it and things like that. And this was the tool bucket he used.
Wow.
Whenever it was he did that. So I actually handled with gloves on the tools used by Captain Slocum. So that was really cool. Yeah. And it looks actually a lot like the tools in here.
Really? So were they woodworking tools or metalworking?
Woodworking and sail-making tools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you were back there for 4 months?
4 months, yeah.
You did an internship.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do after that?
I went to graduate school at the University of Washington for museology, which is museum studies. And it sounds really specific, but a lot of it is very general nonprofit management, as well as the very specific collections management and exhibition design and education theory and things like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a 2-year program. And the week that I was looking to figure out what I was doing for my thesis project, the organization that owns the Arthur Foss next door, their executive director was talking to the Center for Wooden Boats deputy director about how Northwest Seaport needed to design a tour of the Arthur Foss, and Jake, who was the deputy director at the time, and
Jake Beatty,
also ran the sailing programs, was like, well, I don't know, but I've got the sailing instructor who's going to the school at the University of Washington for museology. You should talk to her. So 24 hours later, in a lunch meeting later, I signed on to develop some interpretation about the Arthur Foss, and I was hooked in here again professionally as well as recreationally. Like, I'm a sailor. I taught sailing in the San Juans, but that's not what I did professionally. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you do that?
2000, summer 2000, December 2002. And I love small craft. I love sailing. I love rowing.
Yeah.
But that's not what my background is. Like, you talk to Tyson, he's a boat person, and that's what he does. But now he's an educator. So yeah. So you went to work for Northwest Seaport then? Yeah.
After you got done at the University of Washington?
Yeah.
And what is Northwest Seaport for those listening that don't know?
They're a nonprofit organization devoted to preserving maritime heritage through large vessels. They currently own 3 boats. So one of them is the Arthur Foss, built in 1889. She is the oldest wooden tugboat built in the U.S. that still floats that we know of. She's a very, very neat vessel. She has a lot of stories about Puget Sound and the Pacific Coast, just in her timbers. Then they also own the lightship number 83, which is the last American steam-powered lightship. Doesn't run anymore, but pretty much all the machinery is intact. And she's a really historic vessel, really interesting.
And those were anchored offshore.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah,
in the ocean, like off the mouth of the Columbia River? Was that where that boat was?
Yeah, she was stationed in a bunch of different areas, but there were lightship posts pretty much wherever you needed a lightship, or a lighthouse, but couldn't build a lightship.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's the third one?
Well, the third one is a very small in comparison fishing boat called the Twilight. She's a salmon trawler, fished in Alaska with long lines no, trawler. I can't fully remember the difference between trawling and long lining, but
Yeah. So what did you do then when you were at Northwest Seaport?
I really did a lot of what I do now in my current job, and what I did there is really hard to define except in the details, which is sending emails and writing signs and things like that. But it's basically managing and enhancing how people interact with the boat and interact with the site and what they experience when they get there. So I would write the newsletter, and I would update the website, and I would continue running the interpretation that I developed as a graduate student, getting the boat open for tours, writing grants, following up on grants, doing some project management here and there, a lot of things like that. Yeah. Taking photos, taking a lot of photos.
Lots of photos.
Yeah.
What kind of camera are you using?
A very cheap, crappy one. Well, it's my point and shoot. So they're
Really?
not they're not promotional photos. I don't use them that.
So they don't need to be.
Yeah, they're for documenting what's going on. They're for showing people what we do. Like there's a lot of what we did on the Arthur that was in the engine room that if you really cram people in, you can maybe get 12 people in there. So it was really showing what goes on there to a much broader audience.
Yeah.
So,
She's got this huge 6-cylinder.
700 horsepower Washington Ironworks diesel engine built in 1934. Yeah. Defines the boat.
You're probably familiar with the tug Elmore.
Yeah.
Which I interviewed the owners of that
okay.
earlier this year, Dee and Sarah Meek, and got a tour of that boat and took some pictures of their engine, which is an Atlas Imperial, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's a 4-cylinder, though. I don't remember.
It's either 4 or 6,
Yeah. So, how long were you at Northwest Seaport then?
I was there about 4 years.
And then what happened?
They're a very small organization, and I was the only employee on there, and I was on about half-time. And that was when my husband decided to go back to school, and I needed a full-time job, so I jumped ship and landed on my feet.
Yeah, right next door at the Center for Wood
Right next
Bows.
door, yeah. I didn't think I was going to be that lucky. I'd been job hunting for about 2 months, just looking to get any nonprofit entry-level job, and then one came up here. Haven't looked back.
Yeah. So when was that, Diana?
That was in June and July 2011.
Yeah. And so you're the Visitor Services Manager. So what does that mean? What do you do here?
A lot of what it comes down to is I run the front desk. So I keep the retail and the phones and the greeting people running, and that doesn't mean I'm always behind the desk, but I do a lot of the training. I work very closely with our volunteer coordinator to get that staffed, and I'm back up for when we don't have a volunteer who's able to do that. I'm helping do a lot of the planning for the future of what our front desk looks like as we expand into a new building, and also as we work at our other sites.
What's the new building?
We're working on building an education center here on site.
Oh, really? On site?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's a much bigger story. You should interview Dan or Betsy to talk about
I'll have to ask Dan about that.
Yeah.
Really?
So, yeah.
So that would involve a new pier, floating pier?
No, it'll be on land. It'll be in the park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I do, and then I just, I kind of bring a lot of the disparate departments together, or at least I hear what one department's doing, and then I hear what a different department's doing, and they're all doing it in the same space, so I figure out how to make it work logistically. Like I'll put up posters, and I'll set up tables, and just all sorts of things. It's really hard to define. I know
you get involved in a lot of stuff.
I'm involved in a lot of stuff, and I know
kind of at the heartbeat of what you guys are doing. It sounds like
except we're all at the heartbeat. So
I suppose.
Yeah.
How many employees are here?
It's about 15 or 18 full-time staff. 2 of them are up at Camano Island, or at Cama Beach State Park on Camano Island. About, I guess the rest of us are down here. Yeah, this is the main administrative offices.
Yeah. So what is it about working here that you really like?
The people. The people and the stories. I got into boats and maritime history because I like my parents' sea stories. So I'm not a historian. I enjoy reading and working with other historians' work, but I really like finding out the history and then being able to condense it into the 5-minute version for the general public.
I see.
And I like really enabling people who don't know anything about boats and just walk in off the street and don't know what to expect. And they're looking for the glass display cases for the exhibits, and they want to know what they can do here, what they're supposed to do. And that's where I come in, and that's where the volunteers who I work with come in, because people come in and they ask, what is this? This is a hands-on, open-air, experiential maritime museum. We don't just preserve artifacts, we preserve the skills that go along with the artifacts that make them significant. And part of that's boat building, and part of that's boat repair, and part of that's sailing and rowing. So we always encourage people to either rent a boat or come down to our free public rides, our free Sunday sails, where we'll take people out on a boat. That's a lot of fun. That gets a lot of people their first introduction to the water, their first introduction to sailing. And that's a good feeling. That's one of the really neat things that we do.
Do you have any idea how many people go through the Center for Wooden Boats every year?
It's a really complicated number that I've been asked. Yeah, I've actually been asked to try and figure out a number, and I've been trying to figure out a way to do it. Just because we don't charge admission, anybody can wander our docks. I think the figure we cite is about 100,000 people a year.
Because there's several just at the festival, you probably get, 20 or 30,000?
30,000 safely, yeah. And then we have people who just wander down to look at us or end up here just because they're on their walk, or they're tourists who get off the streetcar and are looking for something to do for a few hours.
Yeah. So if I came down here and didn't know anything about this place, and you told me a little bit, I said, well, why are you guys doing this? What's a purpose? What's a mission? Why is this important? What would you say?
Well, I'd have to choose what I said at the time, because there's so many different answers to that it's really whatever comes up first. Part of it is what all museums are trying to do, which is to provide a connection to something bigger than one person, and share stories and connect people into a bigger community or a bigger history or a bigger tradition. And we're trying to hook people into not only the boat building and the sailing tradition, but also kind of everything that entails, like the teamwork and the heritage and the traditions there. So that's part of it, and part of it is we really want physical skills and physical craft to remain relevant. We want people to everybody spends so much time on their computer right now, and that's an important thing. And it's not something that is bad, but there's more to the world than that.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And this isn't a commercially viable industry right now. Like wooden boat building is a very, very small industry that you really have to work to get into. But anybody can come down and sail a wooden boat. That's one of the things that we really want to get people into.
Yeah, get out on the water and experience what it's like, huh?
Yeah. So,
do you have any favorite boats down here yourself, Diane?
Well, people ask me that a lot because they want to know what boat they should pick when they're going out on public rides. And I have to say, well, all of them, because all of the public rides boats are neat. Those are our larger sailboats, the Sharpies and the Gillnetter and the Steamboat. But if I had to pick a single boat, it would be one of our Blanchard Junior Knockabouts. We have 6 of them in our livery fleet, and they're what we use to teach sailing on. And that's when I ultimately came into the center. So it's one of the Blanchard Juniors. It's the blue one. It's called the Lucky 7, and I just like that boat. So that's what I used to pick when I was teaching.
Is that like a 14-foot sloop?
19-foot sloop.
19-foot sloop.
Yeah, built right next door here on Lake Union.
Yeah, because Blanchard was a designer in this area, right?
Yeah.
What was his first name?
Norm Blanchard.
Norm Blanchard,
yeah.
Right, yeah.
We have a regatta in his name every fall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So you still get out and sail quite a bit yourself?
Not as much as I'd like.
Really?
Yeah. But as often as I can.
Yeah. Do you have a boat yourself?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. People ask me that a lot. Huh? No, why would I want one? I can volunteer in any boat I want. I can take out any of our boats whenever I want. My mom and my dad are still heavily involved in some of the schooner organizations here, so I can go out sailing on them if I put my work in doing the maintenance. So,
What boats are they involved with?
The schooner Zodiac and the schooner Lavengro.
So Zodiac's up in Bellingham, is
Yeah.
it? Yeah, and Levingro's right here.
Right on our docks.
Yeah, which is Kim Carver's a captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just met Kim a few weeks ago.
Oh, good. Yeah, she's great. She has a lot of stories. And knows a lot of people with stories too.
Yeah, and she was on Lady of Washington and a bunch of things. Yeah. So have you done any blue water sailing or tall ship sailing, anything like that?
I've done a little bit of tall ship sailing, entirely confined to Puget Sound and the San Juan Islands. I really enjoy the small
boat
on the Zodiac.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Very little.
But you prefer small boat sailing?
Prefer small boats.
Yeah.
I've gone on rides a few times on tall ships, so on the Brig Niagara when I was back east, a few others. And then the only time I've actually been out in blue water was on my way to a conference in San Diego, where the conference attendees got to travel on one of the Liberty or Victory ships out of San Francisco. I can't remember the name. The Lane Victory ship, which is a steam turbine World War II cargo ship.
Oh wow!
That was really neat. That was an amazing boat. Partially because she's one of two left. We churned out thousands of them during World War II. Yeah.
Does your husband share the same passion for maritime stuff that you do?
No. He's from a medical family, so he's a paramedic.
Oh wow!
And he tolerates boats. He enjoys going out on them once in a while, but he gets really excited about people losing limbs and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, he's into emergency medicine and emergency services. So, very different field. We joke about how bad we'd be at each other's jobs.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
So you live in Seattle?
Yeah. No, we live in Wallingford.
Oh, cool. So you're close by.
Yeah.
So do you spend any time up at the North Lake Union facility?
Very little.
Yeah.
My job is visitor services, and we're closed to visitors up there. So there's not a lot for me to do outside of special events.
Yeah.
I'll go up and take pictures, and I am working on one of the interpretation projects up there. But most of my work is down here.
Yeah. So any exciting other things happening here at the center that you
constantly.
see in the next? Anything you want to tell us about?
Oh, let me think.
New stuff that is coming up?
Yeah, this is my job here, is trying to promote things like this. Once you come down. So we're opening a new exhibit, a real exhibit, on December 29th. That's right. That's actually when the new Museum of History and Industry opens, so we're right alongside them with some new exhibits. I like to tell people that most of our exhibits are out in the water. They're the boats themselves, but this time we're actually doing an in-house built exhibit about the history of fishing resorts on Puget Sound. Our second location is up at Camino Island at Kama Beach State Park, and that's one of the fishing resorts. So this is an exhibit all about the places like Camino Island, or like Kama Beach, where Kama Beach is the remaining example.
And that's open at the end of the month?
At the end of December, yeah.
And that's a free exhibit, is it?
Free exhibit. Wow. We're always free admission. Yeah.
Is that going to be here or at Mohi?
No, it'll be in our boathouse gallery.
In your boathouse.
Yeah.
That's what Andrew's been working on. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see it open.
Yeah. What other stuff? Any other stuff, Diana? Coming up?
Let's see. There's not a lot of new stuff this time of year, but we continue almost all of our programs year-round, so people can still come down for free boat rides every Sunday. I like to tell people we do them rain or shine or snow, because we do go out in the snow. Not many people. Let's see. We've got our festival coming up in July, but we're still planning on that. We've got a big fundraising auction in March.
Okay.
But a lot of this is just doing what we do every day.
Yeah.
Well, every day but Monday.
Well, it's pretty cool to have a free living museum like this. I mean, there's not many places where you have that.
Yeah.
It's very unique.
And it's important to what we do, too. Like, since you talked to Dick Wagner, you know about we were started in his backyard, which was a houseboat, so his backyard was full of water. Yeah. And it was a tradition to just always drop on by. And I think we'd be really fundamentally not the Center for Wooden Boats if we started charging admission.
Yeah.
We're really about including people and about getting people involved.
Yeah.
And it's important to capture those people who are just strolling by while they're walking their dogs. Maybe they're the ones who are really interested.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it is the urban setting that you're in, too. I mean, you're right in the city. Yeah. Where all kinds of stuff's happening. So it's a great opportunity for people to come down and get involved. So, well, I appreciate your time today, Diana. Anything else you'd like to add for our listeners?
Oh, not that I can think of. I plugged the free boat rides, which I really want people to come down for, because that is the way to experience
Sunday
Seattle.
afternoon, do they need to call ahead or reserve or anything?
We don't take reservations.
Okay.
The sign-ups start at 10, and if you come in the summer, you want to be here by 9:30 to get in line. It's not quite as popular in the winter, but the wind tends to be better in the winter. So.
Yeah, and what time does the sail start then?
It depends on what volunteer skippers I have available. So I always have boat rides at 1, at 2, and at 3, and sometimes I might have them as early as 10:15. So it all depends on the weekend.
And how long are the rides?
Generally 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, and usually sailboats?
Our sailboats, our steamboat, and our electric boat. And it's we'll take you out on them, and if you're lucky, you'll get to drive or stoke the boilers or take the helm, or we'll get you out there.
And it's all free?
All free, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Diana.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks, Diana, for doing the interview. It was really fun to meet you and talk about what's happening with you and down at the Center for Wooden Boats. What a fun place to work. I'm a little jealous that you've got a job there and I don't. Probably a lot of people jealous. So anyway, best to you and everybody down at the Center for Wooden Boats. Please connect with me via email, dan@hookedonwoodenboats.com. You can send questions, comments, feedback. I'd love to hear from you. You can subscribe to my e-newsletter, hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. If you're making purchases from Amazon or Jamestown distributors, if you go through my link, I get paid a small commission, which would be awesome. And the link for Amazon is hookedonwoodenboats.com/Amazon. And for Jamestown distributors, the link is hookedonwoodenboats.com/JD. Also, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest if you look for Wooden Boat Dan there. I have a store on my website where you can buy apparel with the Hooked on Wooden Boats logo, which is kind of fun. So check that out if you get a chance. And again, I hope you have a great New Year's, just a few days away from 2013. If you haven't already set goals for the new year, go for it. And start listening to 48 Days podcast. That is an excellent one with Dan Miller. If you go to 48days.com, you can look that one up. And if you haven't gotten involved with wooden boats, it's high time you do, folks. It's a really fun art and craft to get involved in. There's lots of cool people. It's a very rewarding experience, keeping the traditions and history alive of wooden boats that have been around for hundreds and thousands of years. So have a great week. Keep the bright side up and the barnacled side down. Wooden Boat Dan over and out. We'll talk again soon.